Hello and welcome back to Let's Play Rogue Trader with me, Bring It On. Let's finish this. Again.
Keep your wits about you.
Just do it once around. There's not gonna be any loot or anything. There could be an inspection point or some way to sabotage the fight, which I also doubt. Oh, that's some Drukhari influence. There's some references like human technology being mixed with Necron technology. That's definitely some Drukhari influence right there.
I always have a backup plan.
Which would make sense since Calcazar was also working with the Drukhari. Alright, let's talk. Really wish it was voice acted. I see that you did not heed my warnings, Donnie Dawson. Your decision to come here in spite of them may have consequences, but we still have a chance to turn it to everyone's advantage, if your lordship listens to me very carefully. With all due respect to you, Lord Inquisitor, I ask you refrain from any further threats directed toward the blessed Rogue Trader, lest you face repercussions from me. How courteous of you to warn me, Master Versarian. I will remember your words. Master Van Calix, I am pleased to see you. How was your journey? Eliminating, Lord Inquisitor. Heinrich's tone would have frozen anyone else solid, but not Calcazar. The line you are treading is a dangerous one, Calcazar. Stop this madness. You're the one who is attempting something mad and dangerous, acting with insolence toward me. By the Emperor, Donnie Dawson, I'm in no mood to squabble with the Rogue Trader. I'm with your recently installed lordship. What is the Xeno construct? Is that what you're here for? What is it? We call it a shard. And yes, as you have noted quite aptly, it is the reason I am here. This construct contains an ancient, or rather, a pre-ancient being of cosmic power. They're called the Catan. The entity is currently trying to escape, and I'm here to collar it. Calcazar nods at the giant device, whose design clearly points to it having been brought into the crypt from outside. What is this Catan shard? And what is it doing here? A specimen of an ancient predator race, devourers of pulsars who feasted on star systems. Reality itself bent to their power, but many millennia ago, ancient Xenos race managed to defeat them, shatter them into pieces, and lock them away in prisons like the one you see before you. And you think you stand a chance against such power? Do you mean to say that a human is not capable of such a feat? I'm not just a human. I'm an instrument of the Emperor's will. One of many. And the Imperium is omnipotent. If I were to fall, another would follow in my footsteps. That is how humanity makes the impossible possible, with the hands of particular people in particular circumstances. Your skepticism is unwarranted. How taming this creature helped save the Imperium? Over my years of service, I've come to realize that the main problem that humanity faces in this war is the imbalance in power. Our opponents are not races or nations, but incomprehensible monsters, and it is high time we acquired one of our own. My yoke will bind this creature and make it a chained guard serving the Emperor. That is not the full extent of my vision. There are other shards similar to this one, scattered across the galaxy. I plan on seeking them out and confining them all inside the yoke. Each conquered monstrosity will bolster our defenses. Fear. I hear nothing but fear in your words. It was fear that made you believe that His grace alone is not enough to stand against the rising tide of darkness. It was fear that convinced you to seek salvation in the abyss of Xenos filth. You're no guardian of the Imperium. You're just a greedy old coward. The protocols dictate that the Inquisition is beyond the authority of the Adeptus Arbites. But not only have you put yourself above the Lex Imperialis. An angry growl creeps into Salomon's voice. You're playing God. I swore to keep order in the Imperium, and now, I'm just supposed to stand by and watch you do this? No. I still have many questions for you. Given the circumstances of our meeting, I do not see why I should hide anything. I seriously doubt you will share this information with anyone else, for one reason or another. How did this thing end up in your possession? Oops, sorry. Why'd you call for the Astartes to come to your aid? I needed a remarkably strong force to keep my Xenos allies in check. The Emperor's Angels were just the weapon I was looking for, except, considering the sensitive nature of my operation, I couldn't very well risk requesting aid from my allies in the Death Watch, could I? And then I remembered an old debt owed to me by a Space Wolves great company, so I decided to call in a favor. They're an asset at first. The Wolves helped me close a dimensional gate by overwhelming its security systems. I tasked them in hunting the Xenos condemned by Eremeris, but eventually they started prying, and that was unacceptable. I could control Thorvald by giving him more tempting targets, but the baleful Howl Pack. They raided an outpost where my agents had been meeting with the Drukhari. The pack took prisoners but lost the esteemed brother Ulfar. Hoped they would give their all to the search, but instead the Wolves forced the system's coordinates out of the captives and came crashing down on my head. They had no gate to transport them. They used nothing but their warp engines. Thankfully, they realized their situation too late, so Tanakia managed to neutralize them. Ulfar stares coldly at him, the deadly frost of Fenris crackling in his voice as he speaks. You will pay for this, Xavier Calcazar. Know that I will have my blood vengeance. I will have your death. How did this thing end up in your possession? Thanks to your predecessor. I arrived in the Expanse at the call of the Explorer Fleet to deal with Archmagus Amernat's heresy. But I quickly came to the realization that the Coronis Expanse's problems ran much deeper than tech heresy. Unprecedented piracy running wild, blatant smuggling of Xeno artifacts, willful and impetuous rogue traders, and growing threat of the ruinous powers. All this in a region that the Drukhari consider their domain. Frankly, I considered purging the entire Expanse, but it would have been much easier to burn down this whole tangle of threats and corruption. But the web of spies that I have woven presented me with a much more interesting and radical solutions. While investigating Amernat's connections, I turned my eye to Theodora von Valancius, who ultimately gave me the shard. How was Theodora involved in all this? Theodora's instincts were uncanny. She spent decades hunting for a key that could open the dimensional gate, as if she knew that there was something incredible waiting for her on the other side. Her ladyship was lucky enough to discover this shard during one of her expeditions, a trophy that was too much for her to handle. Archmagus Amernat studied it on Theodora's behalf, creating weapons in exchange for access to the dangerous relic. But their research was too primitive and unambitious compared to the true power contained inside the shard. I had one of my own acolytes, Tanakia, send her spies to Theodora. They infiltrated the rogue trader's retinue, earned their trust, and reported to me about this magnificent object. The rest was trivial. I seized Epitaph and laid down the conditions of our further coexistence. She was wise enough to concede defeat with dignity. I commenced Operation Precious Sentinel. I left a garrison on Epitaph, took the key to the dimensional gate from Theodora, sealed the gate, and started the creation of the yoke. I kept Theodora and her heirs in my sights, just in case. Not long before her death, I assigned Heinrichs to her and ordered her to rendezvous with him on Rykad Minoris. But your lordship inherited him instead. I admit I wasn't aware of you. Theodora managed to keep her secret heir up her sleeve. Heinrichs' lip curls. It is unfortunate that I was not privy to all the details of this plan. Gritting his teeth, Abelard says quietly, in the old days, House von Valancius would have declared war over something like this, and fought until the offender was dead. What is the yoke? A containment device similar to this one, except better. The yoke was devised by the brightest minds of two races using the ancient wisdom of a long-gone Xeno civilization. A prison capable of not only holding the Catan Shard, but also of controlling it while releasing fractions of its being. An instrument of obedience and destruction. A masterpiece whose creation required immense effort. It was made on Euphrates too. I captured Amernat's student, Axiomantha, and she passed all of her mentor's drafts to me. And the one overseeing the process was none other than your acquaintance, the tech priest Cubus Delphum. His fall was regrettable. It seems that the unorthodox, daring things he did at my behest drove him to break his vows and sink into heresy. But the human mind could never have comprehended the shard, alone. And thus I appealed to the inhuman mind. I struck a deal with the Drukhari. You collaborated with the Drukhari. Alas, the operation demanded it. Through the agents of one of my acolytes, Emelina, I contacted Archon Eremeris and made a pact. I gave her access to the technologies contained within this relic, and destroyed her rivals in the Cabal. She would relay information on their raids to my spies, and I would solve the problem. In exchange, her homunculus, Tervantius, forged the yoke for me. Of course, I did not let him near the shard itself, but rather set up a laboratory for him on Ketsu Tamer. It was safer that way. All the pieces were contributing to my plan, but none had enough information to comprehend the entirety of it. Hynix cringes at Calcazar's words. He disposes of Emelina like unwanted rubbish, like waste material. After all her years of faithful service to the Golden Throne. Unfortunately, I had to send Emelina away and remove her from the board. A shrewd woman of principle, I used to value those qualities of hers, but suddenly, they started getting in the way of my plan. It would have been safer to eliminate her before she could figure out what was going on, but I must have grown miserly over the years. I was loath to part with a good agent. Or perhaps I was simply being sentimental. But why did the Drukhari want the shard? It is one of the most complicated and perfect creations of a race much older than the Drukhari. It is no mere object, but a treasure trove of technology. A wise master could uncover many secrets simply by observing it. I guess a sound strategy, because I also consort with Inhumans. Trust me, your lordship. The threat of the alien pales in comparison to that posed by the ruinous powers. Eremeris could plunder 1,000 worlds, but she's no Erlon the Cruel. She was as great a danger to her own kin as she was to the Imperium. The disruption she caused among the Drukhari was only to our benefit. She intended to trigger a powerful disjunction in Camorra, thereby destroying her rivals and elevating her own cabal in the process. Knowing full well how precarious her grand plan was, I made no attempt to talk her out of it. With a little luck, wouldn't have need worry about Camorra's influence. It was a dark day when you dropped from under the tail of your rotten-wombed mother, you loathsome traitor. While we were fighting to exterminate the Xenos, you were busy carousing with them. Had I known sooner, I would have ripped your pitch-black heart right out of your chest. I readily believe that. Since we're being so candid, I must note that you proved to be a much less convenient tool than I had anticipated. And then, I take it, you decided to get rid of your Xenos allies. There's no more need for them, seeing as the yoke was almost complete, and the situation was escalating out of control. Theodora was dead, the Cult of the Final Dawn had reared its head and was preparing to strike, and Eremeris had forgotten her place. She was putting forward too many elimination requests. When I told her to curb her appetite, she retaliated. The theft of the Rycat Star was a time to occur when Master Van Calix would be on the planet. The Archon wanted to rob me of one of my agents and send a message. What? Rykad's son vanished because of me. I still fail to see the connection between the disappearing star and the Cult of the Final Dawn. How could the Xenos catalyze the fulfillment of the Archenemy's prophecy? And then the Kronos Expanse was engulfed in flame. I had to rush the operation to declare sector-wide martial law. The webway gate that Eremeris' warriors had been using was destroyed, and the facility on Ketsu Tamer razed. I evacuated the half of the yoke that Tervantius had completed, but it was too late to retrieve the second half from Euphrates II. Keep Estelphim revealed to Erlon the Cruel where he should strike, and I almost spelled the end of Operation Precious Sentinel. I appreciate your efforts in resolving this problem. In fact, you turned out to be much more useful than Theodora ever was. I see. You've come so far in pursuit of answers, Donnie Dawson. It'd be too cruel to leave your curiosity unsatisfied. Seeing as the inhabitants of this place almost killed you, I gather that something went wrong with this plan of yours. Not at all. Operation Precious Sentinel is in its final stages. The increase in Xenos activity is a vexing yet trivial development in the grand scheme of things. They were supposed to guard the device, but they slept through the intrusion, and only the Catan Shard's emanations could make them stir. Theodora's research destabilized the Shard's prison, and my project only made it worse. Whenever particles of the Catan shard's energy seep out, many curious phenomena occur. The destruction of the crypt, the warped reality. When I tamed the monster, I ordered to stop disrupting the laws of the universe. And that brings us to the most interesting part of our conversation. You know my plan, so now I want to know yours. Will you admit that I'm in the right and join me in this undeniably ambitious act? Or will you try to stop me? I will be upfront with you. If it is the latter, I'll be forced to remove you. But I'm sure you realize that already. That's the second time you've threatened the Lord Captain. I will not let you bring this insane plan to fruition. Heinrichs, eliminate the rogue traitor. Calcazar gazes at the unmoving interrogator. Heinrichs, he has gone mad. You don't have to listen to him. After a brief pause, Heinrichs nods and responds gravely. I no longer recognize your authority, Lord Inquisitor. My apologies. In that case, Heinrichs Van Calix, in the name of the Emperor, I hereby revoke your inquisitorial privileges and declare you excommunicate traitoris. Alright, it's probably excommunicate. The punishment for your heresy is death. I bid you farewell. The Inquisitor nods calmly. There's not a shred of hatred or disappointment on his face. Farewell then. I'm glad to have made your acquaintance, Donnie Dawson, despite everything. He glances at his retinue. Eliminate the rogue traitor. Alright, let's dance, buddy. And he's got a thunder hammer.
And accept your
Gotta
verdict.
respect that.
Stand your ground.
Trying to use some kind of cover.
My faith strengthens me.
Alright, so he's going after Heinrichs. That's not great.
There is only death, yours or mine, as honor ordains. The shadows will see it done. Trust me. As the tenets demand. My blade whispers your name.
Here we go.
Glato, we're undertaking this task.
I thought too highly of your skills.
One less.
Let's get to it.
Now, just try and clear out some of the riffraff on our way to Calcazar.
When Fenris is in battle, oceans bleed. Let's make it quick. done. So it shall be.
I forgot to. Darn it!
None can do better than a warrior of the All-Father.
Oh, that'll be all right.
Wolves raid. So it shall be. Ah! Out of my way. Let's get to it.
Actually, can I get to that corner? Does not look like it. That's fine.
Who, if not me? It's as good as done.
Yeah, worth a shot.
On it.
So I'd like to give him a turn.
My gut tells me
But I
it's a
can't.
bad idea.
Alright, we're trying to top these guys. Give Heinrichs a reprieve.
I'll channel my pain.
Let's get to it.
Alright, Abelard, who are you gonna go after, buddy?
Victory is imminent. At your beck and call. Indeed. At your beck and call. I will do my duty.
Won't die here. Stay vigilant.
Hey, hit me for 0 damage. What a jerk.
I shall not fail. The shadows will see it done. Trust me.
He's almost dead.
I can make it.
Alright, take care of that guy for me, Galeto. Perfect.
The order's clear. The arbitrator judges. Target eliminated.
Let's make it quick.
You should have thought twice before crossing me.
Cubs play. Wolves reign. See how. Feel the icing.
Almost got him. He might die to the burning next turn. Before I do anything else,
I feel
try and keep Heinrichs alive.
surging for the throne's glory. But of course, Lord Captain.
I'll see to it personally. I'll make it happen.
Hey, nice. That percent HP damage is coming into play.
Who, if not me?
Alright, we're definitely going to take advantage of Glado getting guaranteed hits in here. And our coin toss chance of hitting, which is better than anyone else's chance of hitting that we've seen.
The best defense is a good offense.
It is actually a coin toss, because a quarter, for instance, is actually a 51% chance to land on tails because the head side is heavier. So 49% chance is actually your chance to land on heads.
Consider this a taste of what's to come. It's as good as done.
Out of my way.
Alright, guys.
Naturally. Let's see to it. More trouble than it's worth. I won't die here. I need a foothold.
Death to the heretics.
At your beck and call.
Alright. That's good.
I'd rather not. Victory is imminent.
Dang it.
I'll channel my pain into anger.
Oh, he dodged Glado. I wasn't sure if he could. And he made Salamorn shoot Glado. And for fighting Calcazar, the music is pretty, not exciting.
As the tenets demand. Trust me. I shall not fail.
How do you dodge when he's... you know what?
Trust me.
Let's test our skills, Glato. Understood.
Frex Prioris!
The Lex is inescapable.
Well, now he's parrying all of Glado's attacks. I wasn't sure.
Accepted.
Alright.
Let's get to it!
He got hit by like, what, 16 in a row or something? And he adapted to it, I suppose.
The fame-hungry come! Here we go.
Orders supersede pain.
On it.
Alright, Glado, getting a couple points of damage. Heck yeah, 14.
I'll make it happen. I'll see to it personally. It's as good as done.
Alright, so I've had it with the plasma. He's not gonna make it there anyway.
Indeed. It will be done. That's not the Seneschal's job. I will do my duty. At your beck and call.
As honor ordains. The
Right.
shadows will see it done.
Can we finish him off this turn? That would
This
be
goes against
super
the
ideal.
tenets. As honor ordains. I shall not fail.
Get some frame drop here. Took a few rounds to get there, but
The order's clear.
there it is. Eight hole damage. Hot dog.
The wolf is on the hunt.
I'll see to it personally.
Alright, Calcazar. Say goodnight.
No, it is too early. The yoke must be activated, or all is lost.
An invisible yet clearly tangible aura of power envelops the figure clad in the robes of a tech priest. It is all the more baffling to hear a youthful, excited voice from under the hood. This is it. The place of our origin. Nemos's gaze is trained upon the Catan Shard. It was your strike and your wish to escape your prison that begot us. The mysterious creature that has been your ship's soul for so long turns to face you. But it is you, Donnie Dawson, who truly ushered us into this world. Let us meet our abominable precursor together, for it is ready to break free. Greetings, Nomos. We're out of time. Now. It escapes now. It's the Void Dargon.
Xenos scum! You don't belong in this galaxy.
The rounding of mortals matters not.
I'll keep Onyx Pine full cover. Yeah, get him, Nomos. I gotta read his abilities again. This is the final boss of the game. To disperse, the Catan Shard teleports the enemies to random positions across the battlefield. Flow inversion. Code-shaped area attack directed at the enemy who last dealt damage to the Catan Shard. Unraveling reality. The Catan Shard creates various copies of itself. Dimensional swap. The Catan Shard swaps positions with one of its copies. Immunity to Deathless. Creatures immune to the following effects: cannot attack, fatigue, disturb, toxic, perplex, horrors of the warp. Mental damage dealt to this creature is reduced by 50%. Machine damage is increased by 30%. Combat Master. This creature switches negative effects. It becomes staggered instead of... Okay, it just reduces the effect. Quantum Cognition. As long as any shard copy or the energy orb remain, each time it is attacked, the Catan Shard will gain a stack of reconceptualization and trigger reflective hit retribution on the attacker. Alright. So, we will,
One of us would be enough.
deal with his copies first.
A fleeting moment of integrity.
Moving into position. It won't take long. Understood.
Threads of purpose unraveling. A prominence cannot damage a star.
A dance of blades and shadows. Trust me. As the tenets demand.
The threads of purpose.
Caught by the web. My blade whispers your name.
A prominence cannot damage a star.
Wolves feel the icy bite of death!
For just a moment.
Predator does not become prey!
Take care of this copy real quick.
I have suffered the singularity of annihilation.
Cubs play! Give this task to someone lesser. None can do this better than a warrior of the All-Father! On it. Mere pain won't stop me.
Perish.
Alright, where did Cynrix?
For the throne's glory. Nothing stands against me. Not sanctioned to do this. The Emperor is on our side.
Echoes of time.
Let's see to it.
Their last moment.
Naturally. But of course, Lord Captain. I won't object to it.
not,
I'll put my psychic abilities to use.
spread out a bit, but I don't want to run out of his aggro zone and then run back.
I'll
That'd
see
be
to
silly.
it personally.
A fleeting moment of integrity. Gone.
It will be done.
Imagine she'll be asking a god.
Victory is
I mean, he's not
imminent.
like the shard of a god,
Indeed.
but still. The point stands.
Insights of the constellations are deadly.
At your beck and call. I will do my duty.
Let's see to it. I won't object to it.
42, 24.
For the throne's glory. Let's see to it. Naturally.
There we go. Oh, I got a decent hit in.
Focus, Van Calix. Focus.
A shattered divinity. What else but a canvas of paradoxes? The realm of centuries is faster than light.
I'll brush this off.
We've got a job to do, Glato.
Get a boy.
The threads of purpose are unraveling.
The order is clear.
A fleeting moment of integrity. Gone.
Glato, we're undertaking this task. I'll take it as a priority.
As honor ordains. Trust me. As honor ordains.
A fleeting moment of integrity.
Caught by the
I'm glad
web.
we're doing so much damage to him.
The threads of purpose are unraveling. What else but a canvas of
Let your
paradoxes?
soul be purged.
Our foes reek of cowardice. Wolves reign. See how the wolf succeeds. My hand is thunder. My strike is ruin. A fleeting moment of integrity. Gone. Cubs play. None can do this better than a warrior of the All-Father. I have become the All-Father's
Heck yeah. Alright. We get some big damage here. I try and encircle him, but I think eventually he starts teleporting away.
I'll make it happen. I'll see to it personally.
Threads of purpose are unraveling.
It's as good as done.
Big hit.
The best defense is a good offense. On it.
A fleeting moment of integrity.
Hey, good job, Glado. Always has my back. I do think that my main character is the best one to use the momentum on, because he has a percent HP damage, and he has a, what, 15,000 HP? Now there's a cap. Cap's at like, what, 300
I'll see
bonus
to
damage?
it. Consider this a taste of what's to come.
But still, he's doing like 500 damage a swing.
The best defense is a good offense.
Over 500, I should say. Oh, he's doing something. Made copies.
Who, if not me?
I'm gonna keep swinging. My companions can take care of them. The copies, the clones.
You should have thought twice before crossing me.
A fleeting moment of integrity. Go on. Planets cannot damage a star.
Yeah, we did a ton of damage. Not the tank. I'm not even built around damage. That's pretty awesome.
At your beck and call. I'm not interested. Victory is imminent.
A fleeting moment of integrity.
At your beck and call.
Everyone, step aside. Let's see to it.
Holy terror! Smite your enemies!
But of course, Lord Captain.
A fleeting moment of integrity. Gone. The threads of purpose are unraveling. Environments.
Another scar for my collection.
Desert divinity. The threads of purpose are unraveling.
Alright, Solomorn,
A prominence cannot damage a star.
Hold the formation.
Fleeting moment of integrity. Gone.
yeah, we hit both of these guys. So that's what we'll do.
Prominence cannot damage a star.
My blade whispers your name. Come, the other side awaits.
Reality is a tapestry of contradictions.
I shall not fail. Trust me. as the tenants. Let your soul be purged.
The threads of purpose are unraveling.
Heck yeah.
I
And
feel nothing. Fear nothing.
So it shall be. Feel the icy bite of death. See how my thunder. My strike is ruin.
I'll make it happen.
I should have. I need to use my temporary health and endure
Consider this a taste of what's to come.
before I let him attack me.
Providence cannot damage a star.
On it.
A fleeting moment of integrity. Gone. The threads of purpose are unraveling.
Alright, Abelard.
Indeed. I will do my duty.
High momentum.
I won't object to it. Let's see to it. For the throne of glory.
Providence cannot damage a star.
Oh, come on now.
Fighting justice faster than I can.
Accepted. Let's test our skills, Glato.
Bunch of 3 damages, but it does
The
add up.
order's clear.
Especially when he's got 15,000 health.
Understood.
A providence cannot damage a star.
Caught by the web. Trust me,
The threads of
I shall not. The shadows will see it done. I feel nothing, fear nothing.
suffers the singularity. Die in disgrace.
Alright, what do we get here?
Cubs play. Prominence cannot damage a star. My hand is thunder. My strike is ruin.
I'll make it happen. I'll see to it personally. It's as good as done. The best defense is a good offense. Consider this a taste of what's to come. The best defense is a good offense.
Be bound once more. No. You trap to be unmade. He said something earlier too, but take the victim's place.
Shattered divinity. Fractured echoes beckon.
Absorb matter. The Catan shard gains temporary wounds equal to 50% of its current wounds for each absorbed matter stack. Slowed extermination. Anytime the character anytime the character deals is increased by +1. Sorry, any damage. Gosh. Every attack they have made this combat does not affect damage over time effects. Construct creates an energy orb in the center of the battlefield. The next turn, the orb explodes to destroy all enemies. The Calcazar shard sentences an enemy to annihilation. Yeah, we're gonna not that happen to him, hopefully.
Victory is imminent. It will be done.
Not mean to activate that again.
Someone else can do this.
Threads of purpose unraveling. Entropy whispers through my existence.
Let's see to it.
Echoes of time seem their last. The dark conundrum bursts with obliterations cannot damage a star.
Mark the target. I'll take it as a priority. Understood.
Threads of purpose
Accepted. One of us would be enough. Understood.
You can't take his place for some reason.
The fleeting moment of integrity gone.
Let your soul be purged. As the tenets demand.
A prominence cannot damage a star. Wolves reign. So shall it be. Wolves reign. Feel the icy bite of death.
What else but a canvas of paradoxes? A shattered divinity.
He's not dead yet, as far as I can
My
tell.
ears are ringing.
I need a foothold.
Providence cannot damage a star. But of course, Lord Captain. Fractured echoes beckon. They who disturb the slumber of infinity perish.
It won't take long. Understood.
I'm fine with
Accepted.
Abelard dying, but the main character is doing most of our damage, so I don't really want him to go.
Well, that was a waste of a med kit.
Glato, we're undertaking this task.
The threads of purpose are unraveling.
Aim for the heart next time. As honor ordains.
A fleeting moment of integrity gone.
Trust me. An offering of blood.
Comes play. Fenris Hilda! My hand is thunder! My strike is ruin! Feel the icy bite of death!
There we go. Problem solved. Double 4. The ancient monster struggles against the energy manacles of the yoke. Its impossible powers that make reality itself burst at the seams are now being forced into a compact dungeon, quirk by quirk, returning it to a cruel and painful non-existence in the moment. It could struggle harder, but something is hindering it. You're the cause of this these hindrances. Only now does the Catan Shard turn its focus to you. The battle was nothing more than the reflexive resistance of an alien mind absorbed in a completely different range of thoughts and responses. But now, it is thinking about you, and its thoughts are so corporeal you can sense them and know them. This extends to the confrontation. It is capable of resolving it in a way that would benefit all. More and more tears appear all over the shard's form. As the yoke absorbs its power, it becomes increasingly harder for the shard to maintain its physical structure. Each imperfection you inflict brings a star predator closer to imprisonment. Do not bow your head before our abominable precursor. It was begotten in the dark abysses of the past. It is a fragment of that which devoured stars and erased civilizations. It knows no benefit other than its own. Allow us to stand against it. This is our time, our impossible chance. As yet another layer of reality cracks, a figure appears before you. Her. After giving you a probing and appraising look, Theodora permits herself a slight smile. Try to touch Theodora. Particles of reality around you begin to boil, trying to heal the wound upon existence, preventing her from entering your version of reality. You and she can exchange words, thoughts, glances, but a physical connection is an impossibility. You're merely fleeting phantoms that could scatter at any moment. She is silent, her gaze still trained on you, as if she's trying to commit your every feature to memory. You and Calcazar did so many terrible things in pursuit of your ambitions. Tell me, was it worth it? Her smile widens. It is always worth it. You understand this yourself. The wound of reality is healed, and the vision of Theodora quickly fades away. You catch her last words. Whatever fate you choose, one can only hope it will be better than mine. Think about the Catan. Mental contact is effortless. This is not communication. Such a powerful being cannot comprehend communicating with anyone but its equals. It simply bears the gift of making the other hear and understand it. So grand is the potential of its thoughts. Try to comprehend what the Catan is. The Catan is the pinnacle of reality. It is eternity, dominance, omnipotence, individuality. The Catan is the original purpose behind all existence. The rest was born in order to contain, nourish, and be appropriated by the Catan. To the Catan, space is an illusory variable. To the Catan, time is a young and trivial phenomenon, for it existed for an eternity in the gaseous energy fount of the universe before time was eventually born. To the Catan, fact and probability are mere abstractions, so in which it can soar on its electromagnetic wings. Currently, the Catan is not whole. It was shattered into lesser pieces, and so were its thoughts and powers. The feeling of emptiness is oppressive, and it yearns to become one again. Try to sense the motives behind the Catan's actions. The Catan wishes to be. All Catan exists to spread and conquer, not to stay manacled within untime, but was untuned by the contemptible sentient tools, away from all that is. The Catan wishes to ascend, sate its hunger, and embrace once more the pure exhilaration of claiming and taming reality. Try to understand what benefits a Catan promises. Power, eternity, comprehension. The Catan once chose to reign over the short-lived races and forge a new and glorious fate for them. It has learned from its mistakes. Now it only bestows its gifts upon the chosen few. The Catan can grant, your thoughts falter, for it is difficult for your mind to fathom the full scope of this word. The Catan can grant everything. Stop thinking about the Catan. It is much easier for you to stop trying to comprehend the Catan than for it, when it can grasp the world in hundreds of ways, to stop comprehending you. Nomos. If our birth ever had a purpose, then it is here and now. Why do you call the shard your precursor? Because that is what it is, and what we are. We've told you before about Theodora's ambition, Amernat's mind, the ship's cradle, and Epitaph's secret. One sprouted into another and spurred yet another. Thus Nomos were born. But we're an echo of the shard's power, an echo that left its prison. Would become something so much more, with your help. What do you intend to do? Clash with the precursor. Touch it. Absorb it. So that the reflection becomes the object reflected. So that the shard becomes Nomos. Then and only then will its threat be eradicated forever. Do you think you can do this, Nomos? And what will happen afterward? We stand at the threshold of probabilities and outside the bounds of the predictable. It is beyond impossible to know whether we can or cannot. But we believe that we can, and that is what drives us to try. And if we succeed, we'll obtain power beyond compare. We'll become a shield against any threat, in whatever form it may manifest itself. I've made my decision. You can sense the shard's reaction, observation, analysis, and an almost intangible anxiety. Face Nomos. Act now, my child. We're ready for the most important battle of our life. Wish us luck. Nomos steps toward the shard. The whole world explodes into a terrifying whirlwind. You can hear the colors and see the touches. Ice burns your hands while fire leaves you freezing. In the midst of this madness, you can clearly sense a battle raging. A clash of two beings. One endlessly ancient and the other endlessly young. The power of the Catan Shard is such that it redefines the very notion of power. But it has a weakness, one that you can see only now, with the shard and its rival standing face to face. The shard is just that, a shard. It is incomplete, it is not whole, and it cannot be what the Catan was before. What opposes the shard is something entirely different, an undivided sentient being with a clear purpose in mind, akin to a well-aimed arrow. And the one who fletched and loosed this arrow was you. The battle goes on and on and on, outrunning the course of time, but you do not need the gift of clairvoyance to know who will emerge victorious. The Catan Shard was transmuted into a new form, and their name was Nomos. Possessing the power of an ancient being and nurtured by the rogue trader, the young star god watched over the Cronus Expanse, their new domain, with curiosity. Gathering its splitting worlds together again, the rogue trader dared to build something more noble and civilized than the Expanse. A haven for those drifting and unprotected in the strict hierarchy of the Imperium. It would be an unbound frontier, where freedom and compassion were not wholly extinct. The shackled monster under Von Valancius' control ensured the survival of the fledgling utopia. Star God destroyed all who threatened its peaceful civilians and instilled fear in those of little faith. The Expanse tasted the sweet fruit of freedom and tolerance with reverent fear. The Imperium could not forgive such insolent deviation from the order prescribed by Holy Terra. The Von Valancius dynasty was accused of the seditious formation of their own empire. An invasion fleet gathered in the Clix's sector. The lifespan of the young utopia was as short as its creators. Protecting the young kingdom of freedom, Nomos created dimensional barriers that cut the Cronus Expanse off from the Imperium more soundly than the Great Rift. The humanity of the Expanse was left in isolation, relying only on themselves, and either had to build something new and different from the Imperium, or fall to the horrors lurking in the darkness. The ideals that Donnie Dawson Von Valancius was committed to were alien to the Imperium, but close to the hearts of many in the Expanse. Anyone who could not resolve a dispute or was denied justice rushed to the palace of the rogue trader in search of mercy. Rumors and stories of his humanitarian rule formed the foundation of the Valancian school of philosophy. The sect united commoners and aristocrats in the belief that for the Imperium to flourish, it should stop seeing its subjects as mere tools. This dangerous heresy was denounced in many systems, but persecutions only hardened and multiplied its followers. Having learned a bitter lesson on Footfall, Insanity Accord let go of her fanatical zeal. Relinquishing the reins of power, she secluded herself on a cloister world. The time of purge is past, and with it, the time of law and order, and the power vacuum that followed. The dark legacy of the abominable Aspis reared its ugly head, and Incendia's dominion gradually devolved into a nest of criminals and pirates. The era of Calcazar's cruelty and wrath came to an end. Only then did the many terrified witnesses to his vile crimes step forward to recount them. Memories of the good, prosperous years for the Protectorate under the wise rule of Calico's Winterscale were eclipsed by the legacy of his innumerable and bloody crimes. Yvain Winterscale underwent his Magna Accessio, became his dynasty's new rogue trader. Many said that noble Yvain lacked firmness of judgment, yet he had more than enough trust, even in those who were unworthy of it. The young rogue trader did not forget those who had saved him from the Rycad system, but favors that House Von Valancius had bestowed on the Winterscales. Thanks to the patronage of the Von Valancius dynasty, the cult of St. Drusus was successful in spreading its influence across the expanse. Overshadowed, the cults of the other saints lost their followers and faced the harsh choice: slip into obscurity or swear allegiance to the ideals of Drusus the warrior. After the death of Reverend Hieronymus Doloroso, a man called Chaplain took over the leadership of the Drusian mission. He hid his name, but not his crimes or his piratical past. With the resolve of an experienced voidfarer, he steered the cult and even led his fellow believers on military expeditions against brigands, enforcing order and converting depraved captives to the faith. The deal struck by the Cognizance fleet and the Von Valancius dynasty replenished the explorers' dwindling supplies, and allowed them to re-embark on a rapid and unrelenting expansion campaign. With powerful bases established in the expanse, the Messiah scouts bravely ventured forth toward unnamed stars with the same drive that propelled their ancestors to explore the expanse itself. The schism of discontinuing the cycle engulfed the entire Cognizance fleet, and soon the Civil War was over. Disregarding the commandments of their forefathers, the explorers started down a dangerous path of new comprehension, creation, and revision of procedures and algorithms. The fleet was united once more, and in its unity, it was ready to stare down any horror standing in the way of the catechism of maintenance and operation. Vegas Dominus Opticon 22, one of the first to hail the return of the Messiah, took the helm of the Mother Squadron of the Cognizance fleet. Unquestioningly embracing the teaching of discontinuing the cycle, he personally saw to the crushing of any renegades who did not accept the Messiah's word as truth, and earned himself the identifier Chrome Scourge. Unprofitable deals made between the Fellowship of the Void and the Von Valancius dynasty helped them subdue smaller brigand squadrons in the sector. Many worlds and stations saw the opening of the Fellowship dens, in which grotesquely sincere pirate representatives took kickbacks from traders in exchange for safe passage. Naturally, the servants of the Von Valancius dynasty and people under the Rogue Trader's protection were safe from the Fellowship of the Void's attacks. Mostly. The first command that Ryza issued after her miraculous rescue and footfall was the complete extermination of all worshippers of the Dark Gods among the Fellowship of the Void. The old pirate wanted to find another way for her people to survive. The former renegades hoped to live by the law, working as mercenaries and traders. When it seemed they were finally on the path to a peaceful life, the Imperial Navy conducted a flash raid and destroyed all their ships. Those who survived the bloodbath were publicly hanged. The Caspalic Commission thrived on the riches it acquired in its deals with the Rogue Trader. The organization expanded to new markets, built up a mercenary army and fleet, and was ready to defend the legitimacy of its business from the authorities. Those foolish enough to deny it that right died quick, brutal, and unexplained deaths. Lodame Takara, as Legion Footfall, survived 14 assassination attempts and thwarted no less than 2,000 schemers before a shot finally took his life. The esteemed Legion's funeral was held in great secrecy, with only his closest entourage being permitted to view his corpse, which spawned some peculiar rumors. Multitude of agreements bound the Imperial Navy to the Von Valancius dynasty. Captains were eager to patrol the Protectorate, knowing they would be richly rewarded. Competing ships lost to pirate attacks and subjected to harsh inspections. Many officers quietly entered the dynasty's service, receiving a salary and title in exchange for their excellent skills. Worthy admirals valued their new friends and enjoyed more gold on the uniforms. Chartist Captain Asterius Thorfest founded the Thorfast and Companions Merchant Company, excelling in trade and acquiring a substantial escort fleet. After 3 decades, he traveled to the Maw to return to the Imperium, in hopes of obtaining the fabled Warrant of Trade. It is not known how this venture ended. When the Rogue Trader's apostasy became apparent, the Imperial Navy fulfilled its duty and fought the Von Valancius dynasty. The Battle of Dargonis ended in resounding defeat. The surviving ships fled to distant systems. Disheartened but not broken, the captains vowed to rebuild their force and plan raids into the apostate territory. The crucial reason for the defeat was the extraordinarily high percentage of captains who betrayed their oaths and defected to the Rogue Trader's side. Overnight, he acquired a battle-ready fleet of his own. Protracted search for a marshal had so weakened the Adeptus Arbites that their new leader had to spend the rest of their life restoring order within the organization. While the Arbites were busy dealing with their internal problems, lawlessness and disobedience flourished throughout the Expanse. Dargonis grew and prospered until it became the capital of the Kronos Expanse. The planet was like a giant magnet, whose pull held together the worlds of the Expanse, absorbing the treasures and vices of the sector. Dargonis became the bastion of order in the Expanse. From here, punitive expeditions were dispatched to tainted worlds, and entire spires were occupied by officials and bureaucrats of the Imperium. On many planets, the expression "a man from Dargonis" soon came to mean a fearsome inspector with the power to impose punishment. Galva Gamma washed off the stain of its former defilement, but not the dark memory of it. The sacred halls were never silent. Production rates became the supreme law. The glory of the Imperium was forged in the blood and sweat of its toilers, and the millstones of the manufactorums ground the workers down by the thousand. Even in death, the souls of its servants dared not step away from their machines. The enthroned Null Caliph drew millions of pilgrims and granted the planet hallowed status. Its sacred calculation continued for centuries. The foremost sages of the Adeptus Mechanicus traveled to the world so they could attempt to divine its meaning. Yanis was conquered, the Xenospirits were exorcised, and the wilderness was subdued. Fields grew until they covered the entire planet, and billions of tons of provisions were harvested there. Yanis had become the breadbasket of the Expanse, and to threaten it would be to condemn millions to starvation. I can read. Yanis became a melting pot for cultures from hundreds of worlds, taking in refugees from across the entire Expanse in its darkest hour. It became a stronghold and a symbol of hope. After the crisis passed, refugees started to return to their home planets and to reclaim the lost worlds, thus earning Yanis the proud name, the home of the Reconquista. Despite grim expectations, the coexistence of humans and the Eldari did not lead to enmity. Yanis had faced many trials, and the struggle against them brought the two peoples together. They did not develop an affection for one another, but they learned to speak with no weapons in their hands. More than one dangerous xenophile schism was born on Yanis. The minds of Vibo 6 grew deeper and deeper, and soon the planet became the darkest and most frightening colony of the Expanse. The final stop for the exiled and the damned. The brutal hardened inhabitants of the Death World feared neither humans nor xeno-horrors, knew no mercy, were known as the most fearsome fighters in the sector, who had traded their lives for the right to leave the eternal darkness of the mines. Guarded luxurious palaces were built under the climate domes, shrouded by clouds of poison. They housed so many powerful blackguards, persecuted aristocrats, and wealthy scoundrels that Vivo 6 gained unimaginable political influence. Such grand and sinister deeds were done there that before long, the grim Death World was spoken of as the new political center of the Expanse. No longer secluded and forlorn, Valstone turned into the spiritual center of the Expanse, hiding golden power. Rulers went there to be anointed for greatness, criminals for penance, and the righteous for encouragement, and there's no end to them in sight. Converted into a comet shrine, Valstone's moon spread the word of St. Cognacius throughout the Expanse. protecting worlds from attacks by the enemies of humanity. His servants asked for neither money nor power, but only the relics left by their blessed patron. The wise handed them over with reverence, while the haughty learned how heavy the hammer of Foulstone was. The fate of the pure-voiced prophet, guardian of the Hallowed Crucible, was a sad one. After visiting 7 worlds and bestowing the blessing of transformation upon them, he perished at the hands of the bloodthirsty Drukhari pirates, along with his retinue and the priceless relic. With the fall of their unholy patron, the edge of daybreak, the cult of the Final Dawn perished as well. Every soul of the cult was hunted down and eliminated. Rumors that some worshippers of the ruinous powers had managed to get away, hiding the writings of their warp-banished lord under their robes, were baseless. Left without a mission or a leader, the word-bearers retreated into the depths of the Immaterium. The last act of vengeance was a bloody assault on Footfall. The populace of several asteroids was exterminated or enslaved. The statue of the God Emperor was badly damaged. After recovering from Corda's regime, Footfall reclaimed its status as the trading hub of the Expanse. Having learned a bitter lesson, Ladame Takari created the Footfall Partisans Militia, a well-equipped mercenary army that answered only to him. A modicum of order returned to the station. The changes that the Von Valancius dynasty brought to Footfall endured on the station long after. 4 houses opened by the order of the rogue trader saved many hungry and homeless from death. Unfortunately, this disrupted the station's delicate ecosystem. No longer freezing to death in empty compartments or tormented by epidemics, those who lived in poverty on Footfall began to choke the station, leading to a sharp rise in crime. Orchid traders, illegal augmetic specialists, the savage gangs of Anvers proliferated. The Rycat system turned into a purulent wound of corruption, poisoning the Expanse. The surreal energies of the yawning Warp Legion held its planets together even in the absence of the gravitational pull of the star, defying the very laws of existence. Immense depravity took root on Rycad Minoris, and it poured out into other systems with vile glee. The people of Rycad Minoris, saved by the rogue trader, eventually found a new home. The colony of New Rycad was founded at the edge of the Von Valancius domain. For a short time, the world was a place of equality, as there was almost no aristocrats left to enforce any kind of hierarchy. Within a generation, everything had returned to business as usual. Yesterday's serfs assumed the burdens of authority with pleasure, as well as the right to mistreat those of lower rank. In memory of this world and all who perished on its surface or met a fate worse than death, construction began on the orbital slipways of Footfall of a glorious cathedral ship to be called Rycad's Sacrifice. A miraculous fusion reactor powered its engines and cannons, fueling them with the fierce power of the motive force. All the best minds of the service of House Von Valancius took up the study of Thesertium. Numerous uses were soon found for the natural psi focus, but the jubilation was short-lived. The series of major warp breaches in Thesertium export destinations put an end to any and all goodwill toward the research. People began zealously destroying anything that remotely resembled the mineral. However, a few exceptionally strong psychers managed to bend the sinister rock to their will, magnifying their sorcerous powers several-fold, and turning them into a force the Expanse has had to reckon with ever since. Rumors of the rotting remains of an Eldari craft world spread around the Expanse. Explorators, privateers, Casbalica agents, and anyone hungry for easy money all rushed to frontier systems to vie for a piece of the prize. Some were swallowed by the warp, while others perished in skirmishes with their rivals. The most skilled and fortunate returned empty-handed after decades of searching. The colossal ship, as big as an imperial world, simply vanished, as if it had never existed. But the legend of the forbidden treasure lived on, and continued to bring daring souls to ruin. When news of the death of the Master of Flesh reached him, Sharon K sent what was left of the Eldari ships to the most distant stars of the Expanse. There, hidden from human eyes with xenotech and sorcery, the Eldari carried on their humble existence, and even managed to establish a few contacts among trusted Mankai, who helped the Xenos in return for knowledge and technology. Eldari from the fallen craft world Cruderak, who once traveled through the darkness of the Expanse in a desperate attempt to gather the remains of their kind, were becoming a rarer sight. Even the most skillful Casbalica agents and audacious bounty hunters, with knowledge of Xeno settlements on the edges of the Expanse, no longer find their trail. Squads of Eldari Rangers suddenly appeared on different worlds and disappeared abruptly, without shedding a drop of blood. Their purpose remained an enigma. The news of Xenos appearing in the Expanse was followed by a report from the agri-world Yanis about a strange flash in the night sky. When the light disappeared, authorities sent out patrols that located a Xenos camp among ancient ruins. The trail ended near a white monument, a webway gate. Where this path led the Eldari, only their farseers know. Time spent on the same world as Mankai pushed the farseer Muron towards reflection. When the webway gate awoke when Yanis and squads of Eldari Rangers stepped onto their ancestors' world, he averted a bloodbath. Granting the Leviathan and its new and naive citizens his blessing, he disappeared through a shining portal, departing for a new home. Somewhere on the underside of reality lay Kimura, woven from manifold other dimensions and illuminated as always with the light of stolen suns, its streets ever filled with screams and agony. Any misfortune experienced by the Dark City became another scar on its appalling face, lost among thousands of other vile blemishes. As long as pain pulsed in its blood-soaked spires, the insatiable and unshakable Kimura continued its flight through the webway, along with its unchanging ruler, the leader of the Cabal of the Black Heart, the most dangerous of all Drukhari, Azrael Vecht. The fall of the Cabal of the Reaving Tempest united Kimura for a brief and bloody moment. The elites of the Dark City set their squabbles aside, found a new game in tearing apart the domain of Archon Eremeris. The fate of the Reaving Tempest reminded the other Cabals that nothing lasts forever in the Dark City, save the city itself. As they're leaving the Necron systems, Nomos destroyed every tomb world of the ancient Xenos. Some eternal strife had awakened within the young deity, demanded that the planets of the undead be obliterated. Following the destruction of Lethus, Rogue Trader Von Valancius directed part of its tithe toward restoring Coronis Expanse worlds that had suffered from Xenos, heretics, and the horrors of the Void. Many of them only survived thanks to that aid, although the broad gesture was met with scant understanding by aristocrats. Some years later, the worlds to which the tithe had been distributed were struck by a ghastly disease that came to be known as the Lethus Curse. Whether it truly was related to the tithe or a mere attempt to slander the Expanse's protector forever remained a mystery. The voice of Voxmaster Vigdis Suri Ada of the Talaman dynasty has long resounded in the Expanse, bringing hope and trumpeting the arrival of the merciful Rogue Trader. And for her wisdom and acute understanding of ship systems, over her long life she taught many generations of future Voxmasters from the Talaman dynasty. Her body was built into the bridge itself, and in times of need, voice flowed through the Vox, dispelling delusions and despair. After years of dedicated service, Master Helmsman Ravor was granted, despite his objections, the privilege of rest. The wise servants of the Omnissiah had planted an augment into his brain that restored his ability to sleep. Soon afterward, something unprecedented happened aboard the ship. The Master Helmsman overslept and missed the start of his watch, but his temper did become much more agreeable from then on. Many years later, High Factotum Janus Anrak sought permission to retire. He said that age had softened his heart, and that a more worthy, young, and assertive successor should take over his position. There was no shortage of candidates. Under all that fat, Anrak had a sentimental heart. He spared nothing for the orphans of those who had died serving the Rogue Trader. The children were given an excellent education and were eager to serve the Von Valancius dynasty. Yocasta Sauerback, serving as Master-at-Arms for years, but eventually her zeal faded. It appeared that, having tried every form of violence in existence, no longer derived out of any of them the joy that it once held. Yocasta humbly submitted her resignation and went back to her home in the capital world. She took up the position of the warden of one of the capital world's hives, reconciled with her cousin Macarius, albeit only after a while. Reconciliation was, at any rate, easy to overlook during gatherings of capital world nobility, where Jocasta and Macarius would waste no opportunity to have a ferocious row. After many years, Zachary Weiss mustered the courage to take personal apprentices again. He searched throughout the Expanse for astropaths whose masters were harsh and cruel to them, and recruited them into his choir. He gathered a cast of talented men and women by his side, who was their guardian and mentor. Weiss died defending his wards from cursed words spewed by the Immaterium. Sealing the sound of those words in his mind, he preferred a horrible death to a repetition of his shameful past mistakes. High Overseer Gregoris Strox of Evo 6 rendered his duties with zeal unfathomable to the common mind. Under his leadership, the penal ward became a paragon of order and a place of incarceration that criminals feared more than death. Strox spent his final years in a small, damp room disturbingly reminiscent of a jail cell. He declined every award and honor for his assiduous service, and preferred solitude to any kind of company. The only exception was Solomon Anthar, who visited his former superior whenever he had the chance. The contents of their long conversations are unknown, but their outcome was the same every time. A gloomy and unmistakable mark of regret on each of the two dour men's faces. Urban Drivestem cared more about preserving the influence of his line than the well-being of the Protectorate. His blind ambition lost him the governor's seat, the respect of his family. Within a few generations, one of the largest houses of Dargonis turned into an obscure family of petty aristocrats. Toriana? Toriana Gaprak missed a moment when her family, which had previously functioned like a well-oiled machine, started to fall apart, racked by infighting. Among her distant relatives, many blamed Toriana for the Calcazar disaster. Soon the Gaprak family splintered into warring factions and spent centuries locked in a violent struggle, only occasionally punctuated by futile attempts to reunite the house. Ikara Sarabak was loyal to the rogue trader to the last, despite all the rumors to the contrary. Finding little affection among his subjects or family, he stayed true to himself, remaining a forthright, severe, and pious person. Ikara strived to ensure that every soul in his charge felt justifiable dread for both him and the God Emperor. Members of House Versarion served the dynasty faithfully and loyally, amassing more and more power. A century later, they had finally gained the respect enjoyed by other noble houses. Yet power and luxury could dull any blade. The now pampered and idle aristocrats were scarcely recognizable as the descendants of the formidable seneschal Versarion. Clementia Versarion, granddaughter of Abelard and Chancellor of Dargonis, executed her duties irreproachably, and even found time to school the younger generations of her family. She was an equally skilled mentor, chancellor, and political operative. After a century of immaculate service, she surprised everyone by leaving her position and becoming the first mate on a trade ship. She would later admit, like a true Versarion, she had always had a passion for ships and voidfaring. Branches of houses Gaprak and Versarion became intertwined for a time after the marriage of Astartia and Vicent. To the great sadness of the couple and the great amusement of the spiteful Dargonis nobility, their marriage produced no children. Just like her ancestors, Astartia Versarion Gaprak dedicated her life to service. Crushed by the events that shook the stability of his house and his inability to provide an heir, Vicent lived in his wife's shadow. When his time came, he passed away without notice. We haven't got to the companions yet, gosh. The Harlequin known as Nocturne of Oblivion visited the Expanse once again. Sneaking outside Dargonis, he came to the rogue trader's palace and left him a special gift. A case of Eldari crafting, unmistakably ancient and precious, the door with the rune of an eye inside a triangle. Only the Lord Captain knew what it contained. The Harlequin candidly warned him that he was drawing the Von Blancy's dynasty into a deadly dance of a shaking doom that all will freeze within the threads of terror's loom. When he promptly departed, and not without reason, a few hours later, assassins from the Dark City appeared, following his trail, and were mercilessly killed. Their armor bore the sign of the Cabal of the Black Heart. After months of searching, Dargonis wardens found the remains of Achilles Scalander on the lowest levels of the Hive. Jakari artifacts and records discovered beside him indicated the agent of the Inquisition had been compromised and was working for the Xenos. Marizai confirmed the guilt of the deceased Inquisition agent, described in detail the torture he inflicted upon the poor soul to gain his obedience and loyalty. He also confirmed that Early had found and killed his Mankai toy. If you chose to believe the words of the cursed Xenos, and thus the secret of the death of Achilles Scalander was never publicly known. Yoslith Malice did not risk returning to Camorra, where the cult of the Fatal Thirst was extracting vengeance on everyone who had helped the rogue trader. He took to piracy, forming a crew from the remnants of the Reaping Tempest. Rekindling his old thirst for battle, he seemed to shed a good 100 years off his age like a snake's skin. Adelia Bellardo, granddaughter of the pirate Jerry Can Dance Bellardo, proved to be a quick-witted and energetic captain. As her guardian, who went simply by the name Chaplain, knew only faith, slaughter, and voidfaring. He advised her to invest her inheritance in a void ship. Her trade clipper, the Snake, traveled to all the settled worlds of the Expanse, the many uncharted ones as well. And all the time that Adelia Barlardo was captain, her ship never once fired on a civilian vessel. Oh man, the secret of the Gene Stealer cult infestation in the Cronus Expanse was laid bare. A wave of purges rolled across many worlds, with enraged rabble and planetary guards massacring thousands of those whose appearance diverged from true human form. Most of them were, of course, ordinary abject genetic misfits and luckless rejects, but their lives were a small price for the sector's purity. A handful of prisoners, all that remained of the Congregation of the Ravenous Star, were left on a minor planet with few supplies. Survivors included only children and old men and women, whose appearance had the fewest distortions. Not one of the true monsters had been spared, or so it seemed. The genetic aberration had all but faded away in the blood of the survivors, only to reveal itself again in their offspring. Soon purple chitin-covered children were born under the greedy light of alien stars, and went on to carry the truth of the many-armed Emperor on the tips of their sting-like tongues. Having completed his last journey with his Lord Captain, Abelard Viserion, with the gracious permission of the rogue trader, left his post as seneschal and took over the helm of his large family. House Viserion rose above its rivals and was never again the target of persecution, even after their esteemed patriarch died decades later in his bed surrounded by his grieving loved ones. Abelard's shining memory was blighted only by rumors of a creeping madness in the twilight of his life. Many said they had seen the esteemed seneschal talking to someone unseen, a voice with unusual tenderness and sorrow. After the battle on Epitaph, Argenta was firmly set on the path of his sister Repentia. Her former fervor and zeal gave way to a grim, cold resignation. He longed for death, yet death seemed to flee before the former companion of the Lord Captain. Or perhaps she just could not find a worthy opponent. The things carried on until one day, while fighting heretics in an uncharted world, Argenta threw herself into a massive inferno to strike down a horrendous warp spawn. Her comrades saw only shadows in the fire and heard the beast's dying bellow. The flames burned for several days. When they finally subsided, Argenta's body was found among the charred rubble, lifeless but untouched by the fire. In one hand she held her chainsword, and the other, a shard of the golden Aquila she had always kept close ever since arriving in the Expanse. Enjoying the privileges of the Mercatum Tabula Officiali, Dai Haidari found her way into the heart of the Expanse's underworld. She became known as the Baroness of Shadows. Having amassed so much wealth and influence, she came to control the economic fate of the sector. Even the most powerful figures in the Expanse were forced to reckon with and despise her. For a long time, Dai was able to thwart the attempts on her life, until one day she disappeared. But many continued to believe that she still rules the Expanse from shadows even deeper than before. Vizier Cabela of the Bloodspun Web guided her cult along its old paths and remained faithful to tradition. As before, Bloodspun Web cultists led ascetic lives and brought death to those who had been marked by the Undying One. However, nothing is unchanging. A momentous event profoundly impacted the Bloodspun Web. The discovery and miraculous return of a lost relic, a card from the Emperor's Tarot. The Vizier performed a reading, and the Emperor showed her a new goal: to put the blessed deck back together. Only in its entirety could it reveal the great and dark future that awaited the Cronus Expanse. The Bloodspun Web read the portents. The holy search commenced. What? Just did her. With her newly acquired power and resources, Dai Haidari expended a great deal of effort to put an end to the cult of the Bloodspun Web. What? Where'd that come from? The ease with which she sent assassins after the spinners and spread damning propaganda betrayed her strong vested interest. Many thought her actions reckless and expected a retaliatory strike to be delivered before long, but it never came. With the cards of the Emperor's Tarot spread before her in the darkness, Vizier Cabela performed one reading after another, but as much as it troubled her, she could find no command to end the life of her brazen adversary. Thus the blade remained sheathed. I didn't realize they had a rivalry. Everyone on the ship knew about the liaison between Cabela and her daemon, but they also knew it would never turn into anything greater. Reluctantly, Cabela grew distant from the Lord Captain, content with her role as her beloved's bodyguard and keeping her feelings confined to her own heart. I thought we moved past that. What? Whatever. Man, again, I'm not really invested in the romance anyway. As painful as that decision was, she saw no other path that the tenets of the Bloodspun Web could lead her down. Manus Erebus was a loyal and dutiful servant of the Rogue Trader. He went on to become an outstanding bridge officer and a true Void Wolf. He visited many systems and worlds in the Cronus Expanse, but never set foot in his native Dargonis or saw his family again. In case you don't remember, because I didn't at first, that was her brother that we took into our service. Heinrich Van Calix, the former interrogator of the Ordo Xenos, took the mantle of the Lord Inquisitor after his mentor's death. Receiving both the Inquisitor's rosette and the duty of defending the sector from the enemies of humanity, Van Calix became the new warden of the Cronus Expanse. God, his armor looks so cool. Van Calix declared a relentless war against the enemies of humanity, be they Xenos, servants of chaos, or heretics in the Imperium's own ranks. The Inquisitor fearlessly eliminated numerous nests of corruption in the Expanse. A few decades later, there's an attempt on his life by a criminal cartel. Some say he survived only thanks to an old acquaintance from within the Casbalica mission, who warned the Inquisitor of the coming attack. After her travels with the Rogue Trader, Cassia Orsellia returned to the bosom of her house, where her circle and the Great Regent declared her the new Novator. Accustomed to relying on the Lord Captain for everything, Cassia became an obedient servant of the Von Valancius dynasty, making every effort to help her friend and mentor, even when doing so harmed the interests of House Orselio. Years later, House Orselio was racked by a wave of brutal murders. Unknown assailants butchered navigators, gouging the atlases from their chests. Lacking in iron will and an aptitude for command, Novator Cassia was not able to build a sufficient bulwark around her rule, and disgruntled members of House Orselio decided to rebel. They set out to depose Lady Cassia and install a worthy protector on the throne instead. Their plan only half worked. To avenge Cassia's death, the Rogue Trader brutally crushed everyone who bore the Orselio name. Adira Tlass lived several more years after the Rogue Trader's grand campaign on Epitaph. Despite her short life, she left behind many legends and tales of her adventures in the Lord Captain's service, and of the terrible warp phenomena that she manifested. At a time when Adira Tlass was preparing to accept her fate, she found guidance where she least expected it, and the wisdom of the Bloodspun Web. The words of Vizier Cabela, who had come to know death better than any mortal soul, helped Adira look to her future not without regret, but without fear. For many years afterward, there was an empty table in the common area of the officer's deck that had an intricate labyrinth carved into the tabletop. None of the crew sat at that table out of respect for the quiet and candid conversations once shared at it by a psyker and a servant of the undying Emperor. Shortly before her death, Adira vanished from her post. Jai disappeared with her. When Jai returned many cycles later, she declared that Adira's last days had been full of joy and adventure, that her greatest pleasure had been watching the Void Whales play. That's kind of cool. So Jai, Cabela, and Adira all got along. And I think, Jai also, I think it's insinuated she helped out Heinrichs. That's a cool little tie-in as well. Because despite her lying about her origins, she does seem devoted to the Imperial Truth. Or sorry, not the Imperial Truth. Well, the Imperium, we'll say. In announcing the discontinuing of the cycle, the Emernet Collective instilled terror in the hearts of those who revealed the theorems of purity, but it gave hope to others. After gathering its disciples and recruiting servo-soldiers from vassal planets, it ventured to the worlds of the Screaming Vortex and to the infernal forges of the Dark Mechanicus. This march of reindoctrination was meant to seize the stolen secrets of the Omnissiah from the hands of the heretics, temper the cult in the fire of battle, and transform it into a tool for both eradication and comprehension. The fleet disappeared in the darkness, and only rare echoes of its astropathic messages were ever intercepted. The unit Abel Hanuman continued his service to the Emernet Collective. In unity with 5 companion minds, he rediscovered the joy of direct cognitive communication, unmarred by inborn otherness. While outwardly silent, he joyfully described the images, concepts, and ideas that the Omnissiah revealed to him. Fulfilling his function, he overflowed with the exaltation of efficiency. For many long years, Elliot traveled at the Rogue Trader's side, helping him decipher the secrets of lost Xenos races, lending him the wisdom of her kind. Half a century later, she says that it was time to say goodbye. The path of the outcast had come to an end. After bidding farewell to her Ellentalk, Elliot made her way to her surviving kin. Elliot followed a new path, the path of the warrior. She hoped that she would never be forced to raise her weapon against the mortals who had become her true brothers and sisters in arms. Rumor has it that Elliot and Pascal met again among the alien stars. A band of Eldari warriors were trying to protect an ancient planetary edifice of their people from the covetous servants of the Omnissiah. Upon learning that Elliot was leading the Xenos, Pascal personally descended to the planet and struck down his former comrade in arms. Her death did not stir any feelings in his metallic heart. Gosh. Salamor and Anthar remained in the ranks of the Adeptus Arbites, swaying ever more from the letter of the law in favor of its spirit. On one occasion, several years later, they refused to collect tithe from one of the fringe worlds, as this would have condemned its people to death by starvation. Aware of the Proctor's long-standing ties with the rogue trader, Marshall decided not to take the risk of having the Freethinker executed. Instead, he sent Salamor on an impossible mission, thereby spelling his death sentence. Abelard Viserion and Salamor and Anthar spent most of their infrequent meetings playing Regicide, which the Seneschal had introduced the Proctor. Meticulously recorded by Abelard's adjutant, the game soon found their way into collections of the best ones ever played in the Expanse, were later referenced by many a noble Regicide aficionado. When First Officer Viserion passed away before he could finish the last match in a long series of draws, Salamor attended his funeral in full dress and regalia, and placed a Regicide piece on his grave. Duty demanded that Magus Hanuman and Marshal Anthar part ways. During their last meeting, Pascal made a few final modifications to Glado's design, increasing the Cybermastiff's service life several-fold. Whether the gift had any impact on Salamor is uncertain, but on more than one occasion, having his faithful dog at his side would turn out to be a salvation in even the darkest of days. Merzai Azariesh, also known as the Tempest Doom, spent several years with the rogue trader, filling the entire crew with terror. However, with time, his restless and ambitious nature got the better of him. Having grown wary of the company of Monkai, the Drukhari left the ship. Soon after, the Kronos Expanse saw the rise of a new mercenary group, a motley army of humans and Xenos led by a bloodthirsty and ruthless Drukhari leader. Years later, Merzai's name resounded through the Expanse once more. His gang had intercepted a Star Surfer Sarian ship. Her head was delivered to Abelard with a note informing him that it was a gift from an old acquaintance, a remembrance of a glorious past. Abelard's grief sent him on a 6-year-long hunt for the despicable Xenos, which sadly was unsuccessful. After joining the Stormbiters, Elfar Thunderlong soon became the pack leader, taking the place of Thorvald, who met an honorable end. The new leader sent a message to Fenris stating his intention to remain in the Expanse. There are too many enemies yet lurking in these hunting grounds that deserve the Allfather's wrath. Legends paved the formidable pack's path in gold. Years later, Elfar found a battle in which he could meet his honorable death, but the warp was suddenly torn asunder, and ships from Fenris bearing the mark of the Wolfhead came to his aid. Saved from the battlefield by his loyal companion Halbrand, Elfar accepted the honors of the Dreadnought and was entombed in sacred armor. During the blessed ritual, he cursed and demanded to be left to his death, but his brothers merely answered with mirthful laughter. When he recovered his senses, Elfar led his forces to the heathen stars. The Allfather had given him a new mission and a near-death vision. No one in the Expanse has heard word of the Space Wolves since their departure, yet many believe that one day they will return victorious. It is rumored that the true cause of Thorvald Ironhide's demise was treachery. Faced with a superior enemy, Space Wolves called on their allies for help, but a nearby squadron of the Connaissance fleet withdrew, apparently broadcasting that the blood debt to Archmagus Amranet is not forgotten. Such was the echo of the deeds of the rogue trader of House von Valancius, deeds that transformed the Kronos Expanse and prepared it for events even darker and more violent. But those are the events of a different story. This one has come to an end. And none too soon. Holy moly, a lot of reading. Well, I've gave a brief review of this game before. I do think it is probably one of the best 40k games I've played, especially lore-wise. There's a lot of passion behind this project, and I I really enjoy it. Which I like 40k anyway. I like CRPGs. I mean, this is the perfect game for me. So having played the game before, my expectations were already, set. But I do think the DLC did enhance the game. They didn't take away in any way, shape, or form as far as I recall. In fact, they added to the game because the DLC had some of the more challenging fights in it. One of my, I guess, quote, complaints from my first playthrough was how easy it was. The DLC kind of curbed that, so it wasn't just a straight blitz through the entire game. There's a couple challenging fights in there, and I do appreciate that. That is one problem, and I understand it's hard to balance CRPGs, especially once you learn it and are able to optimize your party build. Though despite the ease of the game, I did find this playthrough to be more difficult. Now, I did have a less optimized team than I did my first playthrough, which is funny because my first playthrough was blind, and this one I kind of went in with a plan. But the plan sucked, turns out. But they also nerfed a lot of the classes. Like, the officer class got significantly nerfed. In my first playthrough, I had 2 officers in my party, so it was much easier. And I felt the officer not being my party this playthrough. But as I said the first time, I think the art direction, the gameplay, the story, it's all solid. There's a couple things I wouldn't mind seeing in the game, like orcs and the like, but we got a reference to orcs and Tau at that smuggler's cache or smuggler's hideout, whatever it was called. The sense of exploration in the game is fun. I like how each act, again, it did the same thing in Wrath of the Righteous, where each act kind of felt like you had a different goal. Like in Act 4, you're not... Was it Act 3? When you go to Kimura, you're no longer running your protectorate. You're trapped in a specific city. Though it is a very similar formula as Wrath of the Righteous, because you go to Alushan Ira, you're just in the city, you're no longer managing the crusade. But it's good to mix it up. I do like the changes they made to the factions. It's easier to max it out now. You don't have to have a bunch of foreknowledge to max out your faction reputation. When I first played through, I think, unless you knew what you're doing going into it, you could max out the faction reputation. You'd have to really, really optimize it. But now with all the projects giving you a bunch of faction reputation, the projects being easier to complete, it made it easier to max out the faction reputation. I mean, you still have to put some effort into it, but it's not as tedious as it was my first time through. So I was very, very pleased with those changes. It was cool seeing some of the new planets as well, where we saw, was it Thersersha for Salamorn's quest, seeing a medieval world in the 40k setting. So I've read books like Brothers of the Snake, where you see that in the lore. It's cool to see one like with a more visual representation. It's also neat having most of my companions survive to the end, or all my companions, and actually seeing like the ends of their stories. On my first playthrough, I didn't finish Heinrich's quests because I stopped him at Kialva Gamma. Irliet didn't make it, Marizai didn't make it, Adira didn't make it. So there's a lot of content easily missed. I mean, it's easy not to kill your companions, but even then, there's different choices you can make, which changes up the story a little bit. I do think Salamorn ended up becoming one of my favorite companions. I still think Abelard is my favorite companion, but Salamorn's up there. I think every CRPG has a good pro companion. I think Salamorn takes the cake for that now. It was Abelard, and like in Kingmaker, it was Ekondio. And Wrath of the Righteous, it's Lan. They all tend to be some sort of... Well, no, I take that back, because in Pillars of Eternity, it was Adair, so they're not always ranged characters. We'll go ahead and speed this up. But, as always, I mean, I really enjoyed the game. Highly recommend it if you like CRPGs or 40k. If you like reading, maybe not. But you can always skip through the dialogue. Not sure how long this is going to go on. I actually appear in the comments twice. Or not comments, jeez. The credits twice. As both a backer and as a representative of Owlcat. I went to Gen Con with Owlcat to help promote this game in 2023. I might be in that. Gotta find the D's. I can never remember if I put my name in or if I put Bring It Down in. Probably both. A lot of A's. A lot of A's. Hey, found the bees. Well, the episode's practically over. You don't have to stick around if you don't want to. I'm just gonna show you if I can find my name. It's possible. I didn't even look for Bring It Dawn. I may have been up above. Alright. Looking for the DOs. A lot of Daves. Alright, D-O-N. Oh, I see some... see Donalds. May not be in this section. I didn't see my name. Maybe I wasn't in the, credit. Alright. Well, I'm this far. Well, nah, we're only in E. We're gonna skip the credits. Sorry if you want to see your name in the credits, but gosh, it's a lot of names. I spent what, 2 hours reading, so I think I'm gonna call it here. So thanks for joining me on yet another adventure, and what an adventure it was. Hope to see you guys in the next Let's Play.